Hi guys, Drew with Dru Talks here. I wanted to talk about free speech today. I've seen two phrases flying around online that I find very interesting and I wanted to address them. The first one is, I believe in free speech, but I do not believe you are free from the consequences of using your free speech. And the second one is, I believe in free speech, but... So let's talk about free speech. Free speech was originally put into place for minority opinions. So free speech is not there to say all the wonderful things that the majority believes. And honestly, a lot of times the majority in history can be wrong. So it has been very, very crucial that even in the moment when we feel we are all right, that you allow the minority opinions, the voices of the dissent, to be heard. And that is the reason it is a legal law. And that is the reason it has been respected in our culture. One thing we've always believed, always had in common was that we had the freedom of speech. Even offensive, nasty people had the right to express their opinion. This is what stops mob rule from taking over what is acceptable and what is not. And I'm going to give you an example from history of when mob rule has taken over free speech and how it devastated lives. So during the Cold War, people were freaked out about communism. And there were a lot of people in Hollywood that were registered members of the Communist Party, and they believed they had the right to believe that in this country because we have the freedom of speech and thought. But there was the idea that, wait a second, free speech is okay unless your ideas are very dangerous. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to be honest with you. You look at communism, the history of it. You look at USSR, which was the communist country, right? The big one. And Stalin killed more people than Hitler. Communism has killed more people than the Nazis, who were purposely killing people to wipe out entire races. They were exterminating human beings. Okay, so the idea that at the time people were very freaked out about this, the idea that communism was dangerous, and that people who were speaking out for it were dangerous and they had to be silenced. Okay, this led to what they called the blacklist in Hollywood. These people, a lot of them were brilliant writers, they were put out of work. They were not allowed to write for anybody. And they actually started writing illegally under different names. Some of them were thrown in prison. A lot of them committed suicide. These lives were destroyed, all because of the idea that they did not have the freedom. It's just a mob mentality that they didn't have the freedom to believe this. Okay, the reason I bring this up is because right now we have the phrase cancel culture. And there's a lot of people on the right who are like, well, that's just a left idea. They don't believe in freedom of speech. Now, just wait a second. I don't think it has to do with whether you are Republican or Democrat. I think it has to do with the mob does not like dissent. People get into a mob mentality of fear over something, and suddenly anybody who speaks differently than them is the enemy and should be silenced. They do not respect the free speech or the free ideas of other individuals. This is dangerous. Okay, so you're going to use the phrase, I believe in free speech, but you aren't free from the consequences. Okay, so what do you think the consequences should be of somebody who is hateful? Should they lose their job and their ability to get food? Should they be run out of town? Would that make you happy? Should they, have A, B, and C happen to them? Is that enough for them disagreeing with you? I own a small business, and when I hire employees for this business someday, right now we're so small we don't have employees, but someday when I hire employees, I'm going to use communism again because it's a good example. What if I hire a communist and he starts to post a lot of communist propaganda on his Facebook page? A system that has killed millions and millions of people. As a capitalist, as a consequence for him disagreeing with me, should I fire him? No, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. Because the whole point in expressing your opinion is to hopefully change somebody's mind. I don't express my opinion because I want to be heard. If I, heard as in, I just got to get this off my chest. If that were the point in sharing our opinion, then just get a trumpet. You don't even need to use words. Then you can be heard. The whole point in us sharing our opinion is to maybe tell a story, maybe uplift somebody. Maybe we are trying to hopefully educate somebody into changing their mind. I promise you, people can change their mind. And a lot of times when people are lost down these roads, and we know that they are wrong, sometimes all it takes is somebody reaching out to them and just befriending them. I'm going to get back to this in just a second. I want to address the other phrase. I believe in free speech, but. Normally, when somebody says this, they're getting ready to say something that is incredibly anti-free speech. However, they know that sounds just tacky, so they throw, I believe in free speech, but in front of it. Just leave that phrase out. You do not believe in free speech. I believe in free speech, but unless it's inciting violence. I believe in free speech unless it's hateful. No, just say, I don't think you have the right to say hateful things. I don't think you have the right to say offensive things. We have to be able to tell the difference between somebody being offensive and somebody threatening you personally. If somebody sends you a letter with little magazine clipping letters and said, I'm going to come and get you, they're threatening you. If somebody posts something offensive online, you got to be able to tell the difference whether this is a threat or whether they're just spouting off and being dumb. I'll give you an example, and I am not doing this to incite anger at anybody or discriminate or say any of this. I just need to pull an example from my personal life to show you. So I am pasty, as you can see, I'm white. And one time online, I saw somebody, a descendant from one of the First Nations, he had put up, I think we should go scalp some white people and rape some white women. You don't want to know what I did? I just kept scrolling because he wasn't threatening me. He was just being an offensive jerk. Okay, and maybe he thought he was being funny. It wasn't, but you just move on. I didn't report him or try to cancel him because I respected his right to say something gross and disturbing. And this gets me to right now, it is incredibly popular to be anti-racist. And you know what? Good. Because for a long time, the cancel culture would have been canceling you if you were not racist. Okay? So, yeah, that's cool. However, there's this idea that if somebody is part of a racist organization, that they can never, ever, ever change. They're condemned. They're awful. Awful things should happen to them. Some of the most lost, hurtful people are like that because they are some of the most lost, hurting people. Racism is nothing more than a form of hatred. And hatred is a sin. And a lot of times people who hate carry around a lot of pain. There's a really incredible movie that you do not need to watch with your children ever because it's very violent. It's called American History X. But I have known people who leaned towards white supremacy who watched that movie and they're like, never mind, that's a bunch of crap. I don't want to be a part of that movement. if you want to see something uplifting, go online and find videos of men who have gotten out of the neo-Nazi movement, which is a fringe movement. They are not everywhere, but they are definitely a present, and they find young boys who maybe don't have a father in the house, who are upset, who have a lot of pain, and they will groom them and recruit them into these groups. If you want to see something that is hopeful, go look for these videos online of these men who have left these racist groups, and you will feel uplifted. Because a lot of times all it took was somebody not yelling and screaming and telling them how awful and deplorable they were, but them getting to know somebody who was from a group that they hated on a personal basis. And sometimes that's what it takes. We have got to see people as people. And I know this is going to sound really corny, but there's this country song. And I know a bunch of you are like, oh, geez, a country song. But I'm going to tell you, if you spend 11 hours in a tractor all day with nothing but the cab radio on and it plays country music, by the end of that day, you will be singing Reba. So there's this old country song. I don't even remember who sings it. It's called Some People Change. And it talks about how so many times give people a chance. Let them hear you. And try to listen to them, and just choose to share your opinion in the hopes that you're going to educate somebody else. Not that you're going to condemn them, not that you're going to punish them, not that you're going to make them feel dumb or embarrass them, but choose to share your opinion and use your free speech in a way that is useful to just educate somebody and maybe pull them out of that darkness that they have fallen into. Let's just keep seeing the people behind the issues. And also, I encourage parents, teach your children not just that they legally have free speech, but teach them why we have free speech and to respect the free speech of others. Because I do not believe that just because I disagree with somebody that I want them to lose their job, that I want bad things to happen to them, even when they're wrong, like blatantly wrong. That's not what I want. So I think if we have the humility a little bit to turn the other cheek sometimes and to just let some of this go and to respect other people's rights to speak out on certain issues. And like I said, even when they're wrong, because a lot of times they are. So let's just have some humility in our opinions and not be the free speech police where we're inflicting consequences on other people for dissent. Thanks. That's all I got to say. Go ahead and like this video, dislike it, or you can even write in the comments why I'm wrong, and I will not censor you because I respect your right to free speech. Thank you.